I'm going to read a little bit from Wolf Road. I've chosen a chapter called Tracks in the Snow, which is about when Tuuli, who's the main character in the book, meets someone who's going to become a very good friend. Eventually, as the sunlight reddened and deepened, she was heading home with a capercaillie and a brace of hares, not a bad haul, when she came across diminutive paw prints. There were lots of them, fresh-looking and frantic, running in arcs up to the sheer edge of a cliff. Tuuli listened hard, but couldn't hear their owners. Her heart was thumping in her chest. She was still some way from the camp and wanted to get back there as soon as she could. Then she heard a strange, small noise somewhere between a yowl and a whimper. It was coming from the cliff edge. She looked around, checking for wolves. The larch and spruce up here were sparse enough, and she was sure they were nowhere near. Now she laid down her weapons and the bird and hares impaled on a lance, and knelt down carefully near the crag's edge. She pushed her hands down through the snow to feel the rock beneath, making sure she was supported. Then she lay on her belly and inched forward until she could look over the precipice. Something was moving down there. She could see a bundle of fur twitching in spasms. An animal had fallen off the cliff, and whatever it was, it looked hurt. This one would be easy to dispatch if she could reach down to it. But what was it? A small fox? Maybe a wolverine? It had stopped making a noise now. Tuuli shifted a little further forward, sending a slab of snow first sliding gently and then crashing down. A few stones fell after it, bouncing then burying themselves in the drift beside the animal. She grabbed a lance and stabbed it down, but it waved in the air a few feet above her prey. Could she climb down a little? There was a strong-looking birch growing out of the cliff just below the furry bundle, which had probably stopped the animal falling all the way down. It was a long drop. The birch grew up almost parallel to the cliff. Could she push against it to get down there? Deciding to give it a try, she tied her lance to her belt, slung her hide bag over her shoulder, then cautiously pushed snow away until she was pressing her hands onto firm ground at the top of the cliff. Moving her body sideways, she let a leg hang down and shifted her weight until she was dangling off the crag. The larch was alongside her, and she pushed a foot back against it, testing its resilience. It bore her weight. Bracing herself between the rock face and the birch trunk, she lowered herself down very slowly. Tuuli was almost down to the ledge when the little animal, its body half hidden in the snow, lifted and twisted its head round to look at her. Now she made the connection between the circles of paw prints at the top of the cliff and this animal. It was a wolf pup, not much more than 3 moons old. Here was this vulnerable creature looking up at her with a mixture of hope and fear. She could kill it easily. Its meat would last a day or two, and its thick, soft fur would make good gloves, perhaps even a hood. But she had enough food already, and she didn't need new mitts. Killing this helpless animal seemed like an ungrateful act when the Earth Mother, Amma, and the spirits of the forest had already let her take 3 lives that evening. If she left it, it would die anyway. Perhaps she could at least end its suffering, or help somehow. The wolf pup clearly couldn't move, or it would have done so by now. Tuuli represented its only way off that ledge. The light was fading fast. Wolves howled again. She cowered a little at the noise, but it was some distance away. Making up her mind and bridging between the birch trunk and the cliff, she lowered herself down beside the pup. Steadying herself with one hand gripping the birch tree, she let her bag slip off her shoulder and reached towards the small wolf. It pulled its lips back, baring its sharp little teeth at her. And now it tried to move, flailing with its front paws, edging away, pulling a damaged back leg along behind it. Suddenly Tuuli slipped. Her mouth and nose plunged into snow. She lifted her head and gasped for air. But she was safe, still holding the birch with one hand. The pup twisted round towards her face, half buried in the snow. Tuuli closed her eyes, half expecting the snap of jaws and those pin-sharp teeth to be buried in her cheek. Nothing happened. Then she tentatively opened her eyes, and the pup's face was right there. Not growling, not nipping, just looking at her. It seemed that they both exhaled at the same time, their two puffs of breath mist mingling in the air.